Shashi Prabhu, you had a question, is it? You were saying, right, that I'll ask tomorrow. While we wait, if you want to ask.
It was about general chanting.
Mm.
As you know, I've been missing in action for some days. So what I was doing to chant parallelly while I'm doing a data analysis or working on a report or something. But it was very impersonal in a way that I was not concentrating on the Lord, but it was coming to me as a second hand. I was just chanting, but without real dedication to the Lord. So does that really help, or it's just that's not how we should be even chanting?
Yeah, so chanting in any situation is helpful, but that chanting, when we are chanting our specified rounds or the serious chanting that we want to do, 1 round, 2 round, whatever we have agreed to or decided to do. So that chanting should be done without any other activity going on parallelly. But otherwise, we can chant in while doing anything, while doing household work or working or whatever. That chanting is good because that, although it seems like it is on the side, but we are chanting Krishna's names, and that is very pleasing to Krishna. But the japa that we do, which is our serious japa, that should be done while we are not doing anything else.
And I guess your question is it better to maybe not do that day when we are not able to find that dedicated time?
Yeah.
So then the answer is that no, one should try to keep up one's numerical strength, because there is also some strength in number. So even though, we may feel like today I'm busy and, for me, my chanting is simply just finishing it off, then also it is better to finish off than to just leave it and say, well, because it's not good quality, so I might as well not chant. One should just do it. So your question that, is there any benefit? Yes, there is. There is a lot of benefit in just sticking with the discipline and just doing it every day, no matter what. And we've all gone through such days when, our chanting, has simply been like, okay, we really need to complete our rounds, because it's just, we are sick, or there are so many things, right? Life situations happen. So we should never give up our chanting, no matter what the life situation is.
So we'll get into our presentation now. I'll share, we'll start with chapter 13, and then we'll go into chapter 15.
Can I ask a question before we start, or is it?
Go ahead, and you'll see if you want to, like, if the question is, go ahead.
Well, it's about chapter 16, chapter 16, the verse 20.
Okay,
so
go ahead. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Oh, yeah. Lord Krishna says that attaining repeated birth amongst species of demonic life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually, they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. So they don't have any hope?
No, we talked about that, how that hope is actually, sometimes Krishna appears very strict when speaking the principle, but at the same time, Krishna is both the father and the mother. So sometimes the father may appear strict, but the mother is very lenient. So Krishna in his form as Lord Chaitanya and in the form of his devotees, he's very lenient, even to the most stubbornly rebellious soul. And he comes to basically share this Krishna consciousness or offer this opportunity to everybody.
Actually, he does more than offer. He runs after them.
He runs after them.
He begs them. He falls, and so we, when we read more about Lord Chaitanya, we see that his mood is very, very different.
Yeah.
Right. So
there is hope for everybody in Krishna's creation.
In fact, the less qualified we are, the more hope we have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me share this.
Yeah.
So this chapter has an interesting title, Nature, the Enjoyer, and the Consciousness. So 3 things are addressed in this chapter. Incidentally, we are now getting into the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad-Gita. And if you remember, the first 6 chapters are about me, or who am I, and they're also about Karma Yoga. The middle 6 chapters are about bhakti, and it's about God, who is God, and how to approach him. And the last 6 chapters are about the material nature, material world, what this world is made of, because this is where we are stuck. So we need to understand this place so that we can get out of here. So this is the last part of the Bhagavad Gita, which is in many ways, it is very relevant to us because it allows us to see who we are and how to deal with this world. So we can free ourselves and then go back. So Arjuna said, "Oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field." So the Sanskrit word is Kshetra and Kshetragya, and knowledge and object of knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." So field where a field, or in Hindi it's called khet, so field or kshetra, which means that a place where you can grow something. And this body is a place where we grow so many desires, we grow so many karma, and the fruits of those karma, we try to enjoy the fruits that come out of this body. So similarly, so it's appropriately compared to a field. And the knower of the field is Kshetragya.
O scion of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion.
So Arjuna asked 6 questions here in this text 1. Prakatim Purusham Chaiva Kshetra Kshetragya Evacha Jnanam Geyam Jnanagamyam. So he's asking what is jnana, what is knowledge, and what is the object of knowledge. What is like this? What should I know about? Because there's so many things in this world that one can try to learn about, but what is actually worth learning about? That's what Arjuna is asking. So Krishna is saying that the body is the field or kshetra. The knower of the body is Kshetragya. And Krishna says, I am also one of the other knower. And to understand this body and its knower is actually knowledge.
Because there are 2 knowers, right? So our knowledge of this kshetra is only limited to this particular body, this particular field, right? I think it's coming up, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
Text 4. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it's produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are.
That knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is specially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect.
So this kind of establishes the connection between Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta Sutra, how what Bhagavad Gita is presenting is completely in line with what Vedanta Sutra presents. 6 and 7. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. So this is how the body is described. This kshetra is described. This is our field of activities. We are the 5 gross elements, the subtle elements, our happiness, desire. So this is our playground in one sense.
Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance.
So very interesting definition of what knowledge is, because nowadays knowledge means kind of going to school and spending thousands of dollars to go to college and taking on courses. And we basically sacrifice our whole life to pursue that kind of knowledge.
Where do they teach us steadiness and self-control and renunciation of the objects of sense gratification?
It's the other way around.
Absence of false ego, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. So this is why this material world is an upside down.
I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world.
Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything.
So Krishna is describing what is knowable now, Gayam. So what is worth knowing actually. The super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses, which means that it doesn't mean that he doesn't have senses, it just means that he doesn't have material senses. He is unattached, although he is maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature.
The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all.
Although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided because super soul is present in every living being. So it may seem that he's divided, but he's one. He's situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. So he has these contradictory qualities because at the end of his creation, the universe is devoured by the super soul. But he, at the same time, while the universe is going, he develops and maintains everything.
He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge. He is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. So
this is an important verse, that this is his Jnanam Gayam Jnanagamyam Hidi Sarvasya Vishtitam. His knowledge, his object of knowledge, and is the goal of knowledge. Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. No.
Okay. Yeah.
28.
Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature.
Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So this is very important because sometimes we ask this question, who is the source or the cause of suffering and enjoyment in this world? Krishna is saying the living entity is responsible. Although material nature is there, but material nature is not the cause of our suffering, and neither is God.
The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species.
So when the living entity tries to enjoy the forces of three modes of nature, he basically moves up and down in different species. Yet in this body, there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is also known as the super soul. So this is, I guess, the most important verse of this chapter that I will discuss when we are doing the presentation. So now we go to 15th chapter.
Yeah, there's more, right? So yeah, we'll do this, then all of this later.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you wanted to go to, let's first start and then we'll take a break. And
Okay.
stop share.
Yeah, I'll do that. So this is our presentation on the Jiva journey. We'll cover all the last 6 chapters in this presentation. It'll take a few days, but we'll get there.
So we find ourselves in this world, and then, you know, at some point in our life, we ask this question, what am I doing here? And how did I get here? And what's the point of my being here? So, so this whole section actually talks about not, you know, the process of bhakti or who am I, but really about this place that we have found ourselves in. And so we wanted to share this little video of this person who actually found himself stuck in an airport for 18 years. And, you know, nobody was willing to take him. The host country gave him up. The country that he was trying to get to would not accept him. And he really had no place to go. So he was trying to figure out how to, you know, create a life in those 18 years. Where do you get food? how do you go through life? And so we'll watch this, and kind of gives us a sense of how we are also stuck in a place that's really not home. And we're trying to create a home here using so many different difficult, which we call as the struggle for existence and survival of the fittest.
From 1988 to 2006, employees and patrons of the Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris grew accustomed to an unusual but increasingly familiar sight. Amid the stacks of luggage being wheeled across terminals, travelers spending layovers in restaurants and bars, and gift shops filled with overpriced souvenirs, a lone man hiding in plain sight lived on a red bench in the pre-departures lounge of France's largest international airport for nearly 2 decades. Sir Alfred's life inside the Charles de Gaulle Airport unfolded through a tragic series of misfortune and sabotage. His name, like his backstory, was ever evolving, giving those who attempted to liberate him an impossible task.
He has been pretending to be British since at least 5 years.
Disowned by both family and country, all proof of identity either lost or stolen, denied entry into Paris through the airport exit, and unable to fly to a different destination. Sir Alfred was stuck in a perpetual limbo of both coming and going, a place he remained for 18 years. This is the story of Sir Alfred Moran of Terminal 1.
We don't have to watch the whole thing.
When Alfred Moran arrived at the Charles de Gaulle Airport on August 26, 1988, he was a soft-spoken man in his early 40s, eager to catch a flight to the United Kingdom. When he arrived at the Heathrow Airport in London, he failed to produce a passport or any, all too preoccupied with their own travel plans to notice him.
To happy. I hope the result will be a happy end.
But who was Sir Alfred? And how far back did the roots of his misfortune stretch? And was he a victim of bureaucratic circumstance or his own mind?
It's a long documentary. You know, we obviously don't have time to go through it, but just to show that, you know, he actually, you know, it survives because the local restaurants, they see him, and so they start giving him some, you know, leftover food. And so, you know, it's a stark example, but just to indicate that our existence here is also sort of like we are loitering, right? We're trying to find a place that we can call our home. And we've kind of, it was interesting that they were talking about this identity, right? That he didn't have an identity. And so as a result, you know, he didn't really know, and nobody was really willing to take him. And so in the same way, we've also forgotten our identity. And so we're kind of just wandering.
Yeah, and then kind of self-inflicted by our mind.
Because they asked this question, right?
Yeah.
It was misfortune.
So the question is then, why did we come here? Why did we get stuck like this? And this is a question that is asked pretty much by everybody. If this place is not the best place to be, then why am I here? Why did I get here in the first place? And this is where the journey of the Jiva begins in the material world.
In the spiritual world.
Our journey in the material world begins, right? Because we want to give up our eternal place, our home, and we say, maybe there is something to seek, and I want to find my own happiness. I want to be independent. I want to be free from anybody's influence. So, and we leave home. So this is our kind of leaving home. And once we leave the spiritual world, then
yeah, it's described that when the Jiva, you know, proclaims that, you know, I'm out of here. I want to leave. So then Krishna says, you know, my dear friend, please don't go, you know, and he says it, you know, he really begs the living entity, don't go. It's not a good place, you know, you're not going to be happy there. But the Jiva, but still, because the Jiva has this tiny freedom to choose, he uses that, or rather misuses that little independence and says, no, I really want to be the all I survey and experience, you know, freedom from you, you know, so how is that going to happen? Because in the spiritual world, there is no place where there can be forgetfulness of Krishna. So then Krishna has to facilitate that desire, because that's what Krishna does best, is that he takes our desires and he tries to find ways to facilitate it. So so the mother, just like a mother would tell a child, the child says, I want my own kitchen and I want to cook with you, and I want to cook instead of you, and the mother knows that's dangerous. She cannot really handle the burning flame in the kitchen, so then she creates this kind of play kitchen,
and she can't feed the family either.
yeah. So you can see, this whole material world is like our little play kitchen that has been created, just like it resembles the real kitchen, right? And it's interesting that now there's even a little flame there that looks like a flame, and she's cooking and doing everything that she has seen her mother trying to do, and gives her a sense of being in control. And so this whole material world
You're also talking.
is like a little sandbox that has been created to live out our fantasies, to live out our deepest desire.
And I guess when we don't find, after a while, when we get tired of playing and then we get hungry, then we need the mom to feed us the real food. So when we decide to run away, then Krishna, as the loving mother, he says, you can't handle this world yourself. Let me come with you.
So, when the living entity wants to leave, then Krishna knows that this material world is not something that we can manipulate, and he speaks like that in the Bhagavad-Gita. And we have experience of that, right? Right now, we're trying so hard to work with one tiny little virus, and it's completely, it's something that we are finding that it's bigger than us, right? And so what to speak of this entire, energy of Krishna, the material energy, is impossible. So Krishna, understanding that, starts to, tell the Jiva that, hey, you want to go, I'll have to come with you. And so he accompanies. And so this whole chapter that we read is about Krishna coming in as the super soul. So I just really like this, this poem. It's a classic book, children's book by Margaret Wise Brown, The Runaway Bunny. So do you have the words? Okay, we just watch a little bit maybe.
The Runaway Bunny by Margaret Wise Brown. Once there was a little bunny who wanted to run away. So he said to his mother, I am running away. If you run away, I will run after you, for you are my little bunny. If you run after me, said the little bunny, I will become a fish in a trout stream, and I will swim away from you. If you become a fish in a trout stream, said his mother, I will become a fisherman, and I will fish for you. If you become a fisherman, said the little bunny, I will become a rock high on the mountain, high above you. If you become a rock on the mountain high above me, said his mother, I will be a mountain climber, and I will climb to where you are. If you become a mountain climber, said the little bunny, I will be a crocus in a hidden garden. If you become a crocus in a hidden garden, said his mother, I will be a gardener, and I will find you.
So this is our relationship, right, with Krishna, where we are continuously trying to turn our face away and say, I don't know you. And Krishna is continuously acting as our best friend seated in our heart and following us as we make our journey through crazy life situations and all kinds of embarrassing environments where even our best friend and our dearest family member would not bother to accompany us.
From a lion, tiger to a worm in the stool and a tiny insect or a virus, Krishna accompanies us in every single species.
Because, this is our desire. And then every lifetime, Krishna, actually, this is the next one that's coming up. So this is a very nice verse. I think it's from the Mundaka Upanishad, where it's described that how there are
two birds. This body is described as also as a tree. And on this tree, on a branch, there are two birds sitting. One bird is the soul and the other bird is the super soul. And the super soul is accompanying us with the hope that one day this other bird who will get tired of eating the bitter fruits of this tree, and he will turn towards me. And this is what is described here in this verse.
This is the original Sanskrit. Dva Suparna.
Sayuja Sakhaya Samanam Vriksham Parisasva Jate Tayora
Let it keep going.
Tayoranya Pipalam Swadaktan.
So these are the two birds of golden color who are inseparable companions who are sitting on the branches of the same tree. And one of the bird is so busy, right? This is the Jiva who's eating the sweet and bitter fruits of this tree. And here's the other bird. And he's just sitting majestically, not eating any food. So this is again, Krishna says that he has nothing to do with this material world. He never touches this material energy actually. So he's just accompanying us. And what happens because of this, that he finally, all he gets by eating those fruits is that he is overcome by grief and bewilderment, right? And so the friend, that is the super soul that this chapter is talking about, is simply just waiting and thinking, okay, one day he's going to get tired of all of this and turn his attention back towards me.
So these are the two places Krishna talks about himself as a super soul. This is the verse from the 13th chapter. Upadrashta anumanta cha bharta bhukta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyukto dehismin purusha para. Yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as overseer and permitter, and who is also known as a super soul. So these are the different functions the super soul carries while in this body. He's the Upadrashta, which means he oversees whatever we are desiring, whatever we are doing. He oversees that. And Anumanta means he sanctions some things. He sanctions some things he doesn't sanction, depending on our desire and depending on our karma balance. He'll approve of some things. Bharta Bhokta. Bharta means one who maintains us in every single moment. He helps us digest our food. He helps us obtain our food. Whatever else is needed. Bhokta means one who enjoys. He's the ultimate enjoyer. Maheshwara means he's the ultimate proprietor or the master of this body. We think that we are the master and we can use or misuse this body in any way, but actually we are not the master of this body. And therefore, when we misuse this body for anything other than self-realization, then we pay the price in terms of extended stay in this material world. It's like a person who's a prisoner who is on parole. If they do something wrong, then their parole gets cancelled or they have to stay longer. And this is another function of the super soul that is described in the 15th chapter. Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hidi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness.
I am, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I'm the compiler of Vedanta, and I'm the knower of all the Vedas. So this is the super soul. He's, he's accompanying us, and he's overseeing all our activities. And also, he, depending on what we want, he is providing either remembrance or forgetfulness, or even knowledge. So when a living entity finally just wakes up and says, I'm done, I really want to know you, then Krishna provides the knowledge, right? And so, and he's also the goal of all knowledge. So, he's right there with us, and yet we think that we are all alone. So this is actually a song by Kabir, where, they're actually singing a very similar thing, where he's saying that, it's in Hindi, it says, Jara Halke Gaari Hanko, that there is Lord Ram who's seated within us. So, go gently, with this body, which is compared to a vehicle, right? A vehicle. So, I just wanted to share this because it's just kind of a nice,
famous folk song.
Yeah. It's also. Jara halke gaadi haako mere raam gaadi chale. Jara halke gaadi haako mere raam gaadi chale. Jara dheere dheere gaadi haako. It's just becoming aware of the fact that there is another rider with us, that we are not alone in this body.
And he's the owner of this body.
He's the owner of this body. But this car is very beautiful. It has wheels which are very colorful. So the person who is driving it is the living entity, right? Who's Chel Chabili, means she has so many desires. And the person who's sitting in it is actually Lord Ram, or the supreme, super soul. So the car has gotten stuck in this. And the destination is so far, right? So the people who are wise, they're able to get over this great ocean. But those that are not so wise, they get stuck in this material world. And there's no way out for them. You can pause here, but basically saying that, when the car gets stuck, then people from all different places come with different kinds of herbs and medicines to heal the body. But all those herbs, they don't help you at all at the time of death. When Lord Ram leaves this body, then the body it breaks down. This car breaks down. There is nothing we can do with the best of doctors. And then they take this car and they put it in fire. That's what they say. So it's basically, it goes on to say that how 4 people come and they pick up this car, right? And so then suddenly it becomes like a 4-wheel thing, which means that when a person dies, then he's carried by 4 people. And then they go and they take it and they put it in the fire. Right? So everyone is now crying that, my husband or my wife has gone. But then, it's Lord Ram that brings people together, and it's Lord Ram that separates them. So this is how the song ends. But the point being that everything in this world is being orchestrated by the super soul. And we are simply riding in a car, which is, and of course we are our desires are what's driving it, but he is the one who is orchestrating that desire, facilitating that desire. So just wanted to share this because when I heard it,
So this kind of goes into now 15th
chapter. Yeah. So maybe we can quickly watch.
Take a break.
Take a break here and
reflections.
We'll take a few reflections.
And then we can jump into 15th chapter now, which starts with the nature of this material world, what this material world is like. So this is one of the other themes of this whole section. What is this material world?
Any comments, questions? Oh, do you need to go to the Hindi class?
Oh, they joined late.
There's also Anit. Okay, there are 2 people. Sorry about that. We didn't see you. I'll send you there. Yeah. Send. Okay. So, anyways, any comments, reflections? She hasn't gone yet.
She has to join herself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How will she join?
Well, they get a
Okay.
message.
You guys are exceptionally quiet today.
Well, contemplating about this miserable material existence. So.
Anshul, Anchita, do you guys have any thoughts? Amrita?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
So this thought always comes to our mind. If this word is, when we say it's always already orchestrated, and again everything is already been planned, and we are. So I was reading Bhagavad-Gita today, and in the middle of the Bhagavad-Gita there are like 10 pictures. Suddenly there were 10 pictures came back to back, and in one of the picture there was a Krishna in the sky, and there were three energies who were actually I mean basically treating like a puppet. So while looking at that picture, and I went back to the discussion what we had before about the karma and the choices what we have, and that little free will.
Sorry.
एक मिनट अंशुला, अनीता जी आपको हमने डाल दिया है उस ब्रेकआउट रूम में, आपको एक्सेप्ट करना पड़ेगा so that you will be moved to तो आपको उस रूम में अपने आप ले जाएंगे।
आपको हमने डाल तो दिया है।
ओके ओके, अच्छा है।
आपको एक्सेप्ट हाँ नॉट जॉइन।
हाँ आपको ज्वाइन करना पड़ेगा उस ब्रेकआउट रूम को।
ठीक है माता जी, ठीक है, ओके।
Sorry, Anshul, go ahead.
So yeah, to the same point, we have a free will. This word is a world of misery, and also it's being said in the same chapter. I don't remember the chapter. That some claims it's a word of misery, and some claim this is a temporary. So there's a difference between a word of misery and the word is temporary. So how do we relate all that? I mean, I always get confused in that spiral. How much we have, and is it really a word of misery, or it's just a temporary which needs to be passed? And it's all, I mean,
You have to go through it.
Go through it and just deal with it.
So it's temporary in the sense that everything here is temporary. It doesn't mean that it will just pass, because our stay in this material world is not just going to pass because it appears temporary. Every situation is temporary, but this material world, or our stay in this material world, can stay as long as we want to stay here. Right. So in that sense, it is not temporary. And how much control we have control. Although it seems like the modes of nature, they are like the puppeteer, and we are just dancing under the control of the modes. But the modes have only that much control over us as much as we give them the control. So the more we associate with a particular mode, the more we become overcome by that mode, and then we start losing our control. So we still have control at every step. It's orchestrated. It doesn't mean that everything is pre-planned by Krishna, that how every living entity is going to do this and do this and do this. Then there is no point to our making any effort, right? It's just like if you go to a prison, then everything is orchestrated in a prison house, right? Everything, what time the prisoners will wake up, and then at night they have to be inside that prison cell. The doors will close at this time. So everything is orchestrated. But then every prisoner still, they have the freedom how they want to live in this prison. If somebody misbehaves, then their stay will become longer. If somebody behaves properly, then they may be released sooner. So that freedom is always there, right? So similarly with us.
Yeah, so this, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just give me a minute. Radhika Nam, can you please tell Anita ji what to click on so that she can enter into the breakout room?
No, there is an option which comes that join the breakout room. So sometimes it happens, and it has happened with other Hindi participants also, that they're not able to see that message. So I think she'll have to locate it somewhere. It directly says that join the breakout room.
So अनीता दी, वहाँ पे आपका ना कोई एक मैसेज आया होगा कि join the breakout room. आप देखिए वहाँ पे कोई होगा जिसको आप क्लिक करेंगे तो आप डायरेक्टली चले जाएंगे.
टॉप पे ब्लू कलर का आता है.
Is she still there?
I think the video is frozen.
Her video is frozen. Yeah. Okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. That's sorry about that. Yeah. Sorry, Anshul.
No, maybe so I get the reason why I get confused so often is there's a saying I've been hearing since I was a kid. Man ka ho to Hari Kripa, man ka na ho to Hari Ichha. So and that's where I was always get into that confusion. Okay, if it has already been planned, then am I also being planned, and am I also being instructed to move towards that the same thing? I mean, it's the same question I've been asking all the time, but yeah.
Right. No, actually, everything that is happening to us, we are the people who are making it happen. So we are the architect of our own destiny. Nothing is just, it's not that we are being moved like pawns. At the same time, everything has to go through the sanction of Krishna. So that's why we say that nothing happens, not a blade of grass moves without the will of Krishna. So both things are there, but ultimately we are the ones who decide that I want to be here in this material world. We are the ones who decide that, hey, I would like to enjoy in this way and that way. We are the ones who engage in all kinds of activities because of which we have different reactions, karmic reactions that we have to either suffer or enjoy. So we are completely, in charge in that way. But at the same time, so all we can do is like a little child, right? The little child tells the father or the mother that I want to go to this fair. So that desire is initiated by the child, but the ability to go to the fair does not, the child doesn't have. The parent has to put the child in a car and drive the child to the fair. So that facilitation happens by the super soul, because we cannot really move our body. We can't manipulate material energy. All we can do is express our desire. So that is our responsibility. And Krishna's responsibility is that based on our karma, if we have enough in our bank account and also his personal desire, he can either sanction our desire or he may not sanction our desire.
Okay.
He's not the one responsible when a thief says, I want to go and steal.
But just like in a school, the student, everything is pre-planned and organized in the school, right? And there are systems in the school, right? So the student has every student has the freedom how they want to behave in the class, whether they want to study or not, whether they want to fail and stay in the same class for 10 years. It's completely the choice of the student. But every student is under the same control. Everything is organized, but then every student is also free to decide how they want to study in the school.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else based on what we already discussed so far? So we've been talking about the super soul, right? And the living entity's journey starting from the spiritual world and his travel through this material world. So if there are no further questions, we can continue.
Yeah,
we want to finish. Oh yeah, we're going to read from 15th chapter. So this 15th chapter is actually very nice because it's actually, this month is actually based on this chapter.
Yeah.
So this month is called Purushottam, the month of Purushottam. And the name of the chapter is also Purushottam Yoga. Are you doing advanced view?
No, because maybe we should just read at least one verse. Okay. And many devotees chant this chapter for this month. So if you like, you can do that.
It's already finishing this month.
But still, whatever is remaining. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Urdhamulam Adha Shakham Ashwatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Vedavit
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. It's a very interesting tree, right?
The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society.
It's a banyan tree. It's
basically nourished by our fruitive desires, and roots going up and down, which means either happiness or suffering. The Vedic hymns, they are the leaves, because it appears very beautiful. When the tree has bright green leaves, and the tree appears very attractive. So the Vedic hymns are like the hymns for obtaining material enjoyment. So a living entity takes shelter of this tree and takes shelter of these Vedic hymns to attain material happiness.
the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where the foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So this is actually the tree of our entire material existence, where we are caught up. And we are trying to enjoy in this tree, and going up and going down could also be compared to our going up into the heavenly planets, the higher planets, and then again falling down, and then just like a Ferris wheel, right? Continuously going through the cycle of samsara with no place, no resting place, just like this guy at the airport who had no resting place, just wandering from one terminal to the other terminal.
Yeah, and the only way to this tree is like all around us, so you can't
Maybe
really...
we can speak all this in the presentation, should we? What should we do?
Well, we don't have the verses.
Should we? Those.
Yeah, so the important thing here is Krishna is saying, Asanga shastrena dridena chitva, that you must cut down this strongly rooted tree with a weapon of detachment. So we'll go back to our presentation.
So maybe we can speak a little bit more about this tree.
Yeah.
Because that's where we left off.
So upside down means it's like a...
This is a reflection. This is the reflection that we are accepting as reality, right? And so there's a story where there was a king who actually, his daughter lost a necklace, and so the king declared a great prize and said, whoever can find the necklace, I'm going to reward that person. And so there was this person who goes to this, he enters into this very muddy lake, and he's, spends the whole day, and he's looking around, and his body is covered with mud, and he's tired, and it's hot, and he's exhausted. And there's a sage that walks by, and he says, what are you doing? And he says, he's afraid, he doesn't want to share what he's up to, because he feels that what if, the sage also gets on the same project, the same mission. So finally he says, no, tell me, what are you up to? So he says, well, there is a glitter that I can see, and I can see that there's a necklace that I can see in this lake. But the more I'm going inside this lake, it seems to just continuously evade me. I'm not able to find it. So the sage says, did you ever consider looking up at the tree? So in reality, the necklace was actually hanging on one of the branches of the tree, and all he was seeing was the reflection. And he was trying to grab the reflection, and of course, we cannot really do that. So hence the frustration. So
that's why it appears upside down. Because what is at the highest point in the spiritual world appears as the lowest point in this material world. And
and everything that we see in the reflection, the reason why we see it in the reflection is because the original also has exactly the same branches. But as you can see, the reflection is continuously in a state of flux, because the water on which it is reflected is the water of our own desires. And that is in a constant state of flux. And therefore, the tree is also always in a state of flux. So that's why there is impermanence.
And this material world, is a very powerful analogy given in the scriptures that how this material world is considered like a prison house, because this is a place where a place for reformation. The living entity has a desire to kind of violate the laws of the state, or violate our desires to be of service to Krishna. Rather, we want to be independent. Just like when a citizen decides to be independent of the laws of the state, then they commit something which puts them into this prison house.
So it's kind of interesting that there are so many analogies of this material world that we are trying to bring out. One is that it's like a play kitchen. So it's like a sandbox, right? Where we can exhaust our desires and pretend, that we are the master and the controller and the enjoyer. And then the other analogy that we looked at is material nature as a reflection. So a reflection, because everything that exists in the spiritual world also exists in the material world, except that is upside down. So that was the second analogy that we looked at. And this is the third one, which is the material world as a prison house, right? Where even though it's a sandbox, but ultimately it's a place where we come and we learn our lessons and we correct our tendencies for an enjoyment that actually doesn't lead to any enjoyment. So.
And we'll talk about how this is a different kind of a prison house. This is about Alcatraz. It's
right in the beginning.
Right in the beginning.
Right in the beginning, just explains, what a powerful.
In the 1930s, America was hit by a wave of organized crime. The FBI spent many years trying to catch and convict mobsters like Al Capone. When they finally arrested him, they had to make sure he stayed locked up. To contain this new breed of super gangster, the US government planned to build a super prison. They found the perfect location, an island in the middle of San Francisco Bay called Alcatraz. On the island was an old military fort sitting in a deep pit cut into the rock. Workers demolished the old building and built 3 stories of steel-reinforced concrete cell blocks on top. None of the 600 cells had any contact to the outer walls. They were a prison within a prison. Each cell was fitted with unbreakable steel gates, which had no keys, but could be opened remotely. Alcatraz was the biggest concrete structure in the world, and supposedly the most secure prison on the planet. Bob Luke arrived in Alcatraz in 1954, looking forward to 12 years on the rock.
The boat made a wide turn, and then I could see the island. And first I saw the houses down the bottom, and then looked up and the prison was sitting up on top of the island. So that was my first glimpse of Alcatraz. It looked like to me like a French chateau, but I knew that this was nothing. Of course, we always heard of Alcatraz, it was going to be the end of the line.
Alcatraz was the last stop for America's most dangerous and violent offenders.
This is my mud.
So it was also surrounded by water, right? So it's interesting that the Sanskrit word for this material world is also called Durg. Durg means a fort, right?
A very difficult, Du means very difficult and Ga means to escape. So it's a very difficult place to escape. And unlike Alcatraz, where every prisoner who came there, there are so many plans that were made by different prisoners to escape. Everybody wanted to escape, and I think some prisoners were able to escape. And at that point, they closed down Alcatraz. But this material world is a different kind of prison, because here everything is open in one sense. There are no walls around us, no concrete gates. But at the same time, we don't even desire to escape from this material world. In Alcatraz, everybody would look at the sun and they keep looking at the San Francisco skyline, that one day I will escape this place somehow. But in this material world, this is more like a prison of desires, because here we don't even desire to escape. We don't even feel like we're in the Alcatraz.
Exactly, and that is actually the most powerful prison that anybody can ever create, right? Where we are a prisoner of our own desire, of our own mind. And actually it's interesting that Durga Devi, she is considered to be the superintendent or the jailer of this prison. And so, you know, and her name is Durga, which means one who controls this fort, or Durga. And, you know, and all the facilities that we have in this prison is basically just, you know, going from cell type A to cell type B to cell type C, or to solitary confinement. So just different varieties of confinement. But ultimately, you know, even if it's, you know, Bill Gates, or even if it is the richest or the most powerful person on this planet, it's just another kind of confinement, right? And so the Vedic scriptures, they say that we should not really waste our time, you know, trying to go up or down, because they're just all different varieties of the same experience. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka, right? Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Gita that from the topmost planet down to the lowest planet, all these places are places of misery.
Banyan tree, this material world is compared to, this is the fourth analogy, it's compared to a banyan tree.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing, you know, just to show that, just to give us a glimpse of why Krishna is saying that this is a banyan tree. Look at how huge this is.
And you can't really figure out the origin of a banyan tree.
And I was just thinking how these kids are, you know, climbing up this banyan tree and playing on it, and
Keep going.
And just jumping, swinging on it, and this is our effort, right? To climb up and go from one place to the next. And so this is what it means that the roots are upside, right? Upside down.
Yeah, the roots come from the branches and then they go into the ground.
And in fact,
it's the other way around.
And in fact, we were also reading how, right, that's called epiphyte or something, where when you first plant it, it actually wraps around the host tree and completely, like, that's how it grows, you know, and it finally kills it. So, you know, when we come into this banyan tree, you know, our desires actually kind of strangle our, I guess, our spiritual aspiration, right? So.
And this is the greatest or the largest banyan tree in the world.
This is Howrah, Kolkata. What's going on? There it is. It's almost like a city.
This is
one tree?
Yeah, that's one tree.
Wow.
And it extends, just like this whole material world, right? It extends from the topmost planet to the lowest planet. It's crazy, right? It's all one tree. So that's why Krishna is comparing this whole thing to a banyan tree. And this, I think we could maybe talk about this tomorrow, because, you know, now what we want to get into is that, all right, okay, let's see, just trying to see.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Is it all tomorrow? Why am I here? No, I think this is today. This is all today. Because tomorrow we want to talk about the modes of material nature. Just give us a minute. Can you just mute once and let's just see? Okay, so we're back. Sorry for that interruption. We just had to figure out, I think that particular slide will be part of our tomorrow's discussion, because we'll talk about what are those forces that keep us bound in this material world. And Krishna is spending a whole chapter on that, which is the modes of material nature. So now that we find ourselves in this material world, in this reflection, in this prison house, in this play kitchen, in the sandbox, are we really happy? Like we started this whole conversation with the living entity saying, got to go there, got to find my happiness, away. So are we there yet? Have we found it? And so this is sort of a very, you may say even a pessimistic view of this material world, but it is described that the happiness in this material world is like, the dunking of a prisoner in the water, right? So the prisoner is dunked into the water, and then, and then he comes out for a moment, just for this little moment, and he takes this deep, breath, and then he's dunked back in, and then that little place where he gets that little breath of fresh air, he thinks, oh, my life is so good, and that I'm so happy. So Prabhupada says that in the material world, happiness is simply the cessation of material miseries. We always talk about this, okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. Which is, when there is no misery, then that means we think that, okay, I'm happy now.
You want to tell the whole story? Okay, it's too slow. So this is actually a video that actually went viral. So what happens when the living entity comes into this material world, lifetime after lifetime? It's loitering, right? Just like that guy in that airport. It's no fun. One terminal to the next terminal to the third terminal. So this is kind of indicative of how, in this particular case,
this guy finally realized that, why am I here?
Why am I here? He's
Why did you bring me here?
Really grumpy look on his face.
And why are you all laughing and smiling about my presence here? I'm not happy.
Sometimes somebody will come up and snap a picture of you, and then
No.
Yeah. Don't listen to this story.
She is like, what the hell? She won't Did you take a speculum to me? Yeah. What the hell? Apparently, she is supposed to. This was a moment in time where somebody caught her fake. But I feel like she's written, "Dear Diary, it's day one, and I don't understand. What's happening here. This is my face. I love it. But warm and cool. She was all comfortable. Yes. She was floating around in her warm bath, and now she's got lights in her face.
And it's interesting that the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukdev Goswami, he also, he refuses to come out of the mother's womb, right? He says, I'm not coming out because as soon as I come out, I will be caught by this material energy. So I don't want to come out. So finally, Krishna has to come and convince him that, when you come out, you will not be touched by this material energy. So just come out. It's okay. And so that's when Sukdev Goswami comes out. And then as soon as he comes, he just leaves. He goes off to the forest because he doesn't want anything to do with this material world. So I just wanted to share this. So it's kind of interesting that there is a person in India. He actually sued his parents because he felt that his parents actually gave birth to him without taking his permission. And so, I don't know, maybe we should not be watching this whole thing again. But basically, this guy, he...
just 1 minute.
Okay.
Sure.
A 27-year-old Indian man from Mumbai plans to sue his parents for bringing him into this world without his consent. According to the BBC, Raphael Samuel is an anti-natalist, meaning he believes life is so insufferable to the point where people should opt not to procreate. Samuel told the BBC that with all the suffering people in the world that, quote, human existence is totally pointless. Samuel admits that the task of getting consent from an unborn or yet to be conceived person is impossible, but plans to sue his parents on principle. No representation has been secured yet for his case, and adding to the intrigue is that both of Samuel's parents are attorneys.
So just wanted to share this, that this is our dilemma, that initially we left this material world and we decided to come here in pursuit of happiness. There's a chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam where it is described that our journey into this material world is also compared to a merchant who enters into a forest of enjoyment. He's thinking that he's going to enter into this forest and he's going to make a big profit. But then the deeper he goes into the forest, he realizes that, there is no profit. Instead, there are all these dangerous animals, right? And there is this great dark forest that he finds himself feeling very lost in. We should read that. Yeah, we'll read that tomorrow. So that's kind of our state here. So this is where we have found ourselves in. So, but this is not the end of the story. Like I said, we told you guys that we're going to take you on this whole journey. So this is just the beginning part, right? We're just building ourselves up to the point where what's going on. So it's like the conflict. So now from here, we'll talk about, so who is, what are the forces that we are dealing with, and what is the power of those forces? Because in order to actually come out of any situation, we have to know what is this material energy that we are dealing with, and what are the, just like Anshul was pointing out, that those three, forces, and you feel like you're a puppet. So we need to know what are these forces and how are they controlling us. Then we can find our way back out. And then from there, we will talk about our faith, right? And how precious that faith is, and how we can, just by placing our faith in different things, how this journey through this banyan tree can keep extending, right? In so many different directions. And then finally, we'll end with the 18th chapter, which is all about surrender. So this is actually a beautiful poem, a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which depicts this living entity's dilemma coming into this material world and realizing at this point that, hey, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe this is not the place that I thought it was going to be. So we are thinking maybe we'll sing these two verses together. It's a long song, but we won't have time to maybe go through the whole thing. Should we do it? So you guys can also sing with us. Just a minute. भूलिया तुम्हारे संसारे आशिया तेरा सीधा बैठा भूलिया तुम्हारे संसारे आशिया तेरा सीधा बैठा तुम्हारा चरणे आशियाची आमी बोली वो दुखेरा কথা भूलिया तुम्हारे संसारे आशिया पेना नाविध व्यथा जननी जठारे चिलमा जखाना विषमा बंधन पाशे एक बार प्रभु देखा दिया मोरे एक बार प्रभु देखा दिया मोरे वांछिले ए दीन दास भूलिया तुम्हारे संसारे आशिया तेना नाविध बैठा. O Lord, forgetting you and coming to this material world, I have experienced a host of sins and sorrows. Now I approach your lotus feet and submit my tale of woe.
While I was bound up tightly in the unbearable confines of my mother's womb, O Lord, you once revealed yourself before me. After appearing briefly, you abandoned this poor servant of yours.
So, and then it goes on to talk about how as soon as it came out with this complete feeling that I'm going to dedicate my life to my spiritual life. But then, he gets caught up with the affection of family and parents, and he grows up, and then he has friends. He spends his time playing with his friends. And then it goes on. And then in the last stanza, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that now old age has come. And I realized that I have not, spent my life remembering you. So this is this very beautiful song. So we'll pause here. And then tomorrow we'll continue with the modes of material nature.
If you guys like, you can read ahead, chapter 14 and the first part of chapter 18.
So even though we're not going chronologically, but we're going to be covering all the verses all the way through the 18th chapter. Yeah. And so if you guys have any questions, or comments, we can discuss that. Yeah. That's true, Delia. We don't even know that we are in the prison half the time. This is the beauty of this prison, that it can simultaneously, it can act as a play kitchen, it can act as a correctional facility, it can act as a upside down reflection. So depending on what we want, but at the end of the day, it is a prison because it gives us so much suffering, right? No matter whatever we may think it is to be. It is said Sage Narada got cursed and was born in a swamp and was enjoying the life blissful, and that we can imagine. Yeah. So anybody else? Any other thoughts or comments?
Mataji, Prabhuji, I have, there's something that's been upsetting me lately.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's this frustration with Krishna being so subtle, so apparently imperceptible the way that I perceive anything else that I can, see, smell, touch, perceive, whatever. It feels a little bit like I'm trying to develop a relationship, like a long distance relationship with somebody who's like really far away. And I can't, I feel envious of like people who have actually gotten to see Krishna's forms, and just the fact that this quality where he's like in everything, but not directly, but we can't kind of like filter out and see only Krishna. We have to see him through all of those other things, like you mentioned in another lesson, like the string in with the pearls, how you can see the pearls, but you can't see the string. And then this, like all of this effort of having to try so hard to deduce Krishna and see him and everything. It's just, I feel like I'm trying to get to know somebody who, like I've always just missed them. Like they've always just left the room, like I can learn things. I can go into the room they just left and smell maybe the cologne they were wearing, or see something that they left on a watch or something on the table, or some food that they just ate or something, and get to know the taste, get to know the person, but not this direct perception. It's driving me a little nuts.
Wow.
Join the club.
Join the club. Yeah, this is actually this hankering or this longing for this direct perception is what keeps our bhakti alive, and it's something that we are preparing. We want to meet him. We want to have a direct perception, direct experience, and he also does, actually, even more than us. Prabhupada says that even at the height of our deepest desire to meet him, that desire is nothing compared to how strongly and intensely Krishna wants to meet us. So just like we feel like we are missing him, he is actually missing us even more. So then the question may be, then what's the hitch, right? It's a question that I've asked, like, okay, Krishna, I want to really meet you, and you really want to meet, then why are we still, why this separation, right? And it's because that whether we understand or whether we can appreciate, but our existence in this material world is very, very prolonged, very, like Prabhupada says, time immemorial. So we have gotten ourselves addicted to so many conceptions and so much of this, our attachment to this material world. So in order to actually understand and be able to reunite with Krishna, there's a lot of letting go that we may not be able to immediately see. But as we progress in our Krishna consciousness, we'll see that there's a great deal of refinement that is required for that desire. There are things that we're still carrying within ourselves, like desires and aspirations and things,
And it's, even if Krishna were to come in front of us, okay, fill your desire, how long can we hold our attention on him? And because our mind and heart is distracted by so many different things, maybe after an hour or a couple of hours or a day or 2 days, okay, Krishna, now it's time for me to pursue my own interest. And just like right now, we are not able to focus on his holy name. We are not able to focus on hearing about him. After a while, our mind starts saying, yeah, let me do something else, right? So Krishna wants us to meet him at that point where we will never be distracted by anything else, and we can completely give ourselves to him. He's preparing us to get to that point, and he's very eager for us to get to that point, because we don't want to meet him and then say, okay, once we get again distracted, then where do we go now, right? So we want to be fully ready for him, and that's what he's preparing us for. And he appears in the form of the deity also, right? Deity is the form that the form of Krishna that we can see with our material senses, and he's present there.
We can take care of the deities, we can cook, and so there is all of these different things. But I like that point that there is a meeting point, and that meeting point is when we are ready. I remember long time ago when I first started my Krishna consciousness, and I think Nima was just born, and I had the same question. A lot of the questions that you asked earlier, I remember asking, going through the same struggles. And I remember asking, like, Krishna, like, why? Like, I really want to come back. And I remember I had a dream where, in the dream, basically it's like, okay, you can come, but just make sure that, you don't look back. And of course, there's Nima there, right? So then I realized that, I mean, it's like, I may say that I really want to go, but then, there are things that are still holding me back. So I have to work, in order to like, I have to first wind up my business here and say, okay, Krishna, I'm ready to come. Now I have no other business here, and I'm all ready for you. That's what we are preparing ourselves to, actually, is winding up everything
and
else.
that preparing itself is meeting Krishna. It's not that we are going to meet him at some future point. While we are preparing, we are actually, he is with us. And when I see your frustration, but you can turn that frustration into eagerness, basically.
If we have that longing and that desire, then, that's like, like countless lifetimes, right? We haven't even thought about this. And now we are developing this fire within us. Like, Krishna, I really want to, like George Harrison also sings like that, right? I want to really want to know you or see you, but it takes so long. So that taking so long is that price. Rupa Goswami says that if that intense greed or that intense longing is the price that we have to pay to actually see Krishna. So you're fortunate.
It's like a two-edged sword. You have to continue to feel that separation from Krishna, intense, or rather increase your feeling of separation from Krishna. But at the same time, be very eager to see him. And sometimes we want to just make it happen right now.
So there's patience.
Yeah.
Same thing, those three things: utsaha, nishchaya, dharya, right? Enthusiasm, determination, and patience.
So one thing you can be sure that it's definitely going to happen. Just even once when the living entity expresses the desire that Krishna, I want to be with you, and Krishna, he's going to fulfill that desire.
Actually, Vaisheshika Prabhu said something that was so beautiful that really gave a lot of solace to my heart. He said, if you have met the devotees, then Krishna is not far away. Because before you meet, just like before you see the sun, you will see the sunshine, right? So if the sunshine has come, then obviously you'll see the sun.
It's like when a big minister is, the motorcade is going, right? You see like 10,000 cars, right? And even if you see the first car, I remember like when the prime minister used to come to our hometown, or sometimes once in 10 years.
Did?
once. So you see that like the first car comes, or then you see, oh wow, there are like 100 cars coming. When you see the first car, you know, okay, the car of the prime minister or that minister is right behind somewhere. I just have to keep waiting. So
the most auspicious thing is that, when we come, we've seen. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that is so true, that we're so close. Yes, Pratibha, his name is not different from his form. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
And actually, if I can add something, Mataji, like whenever I feel discouraged, like I get some sign or the other, which is a form of encouragement. Once I was driving, asking all these questions, like right in front of me was a car which had that license plate believe. So like something or the other shows up, like I feel that is a sign, and it's an encouragement from Krishna. Like, when I think, okay, that I'm not really progressing, or those thoughts crop up, something or the other shows up in your environment, and that is Krishna. Like, so it's something I wanted to share.
Very nice, Pratibha. Thank you. That's very beautiful. And that's actually exactly right. That Krishna will, Krishna is, he'll keep giving us, he'll make his presence felt in so many different ways, and keep encouraging us along the way. And finally,
9 o'clock, so we'll wrap up. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.